And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome into RBLR Sports, where the Buccaneers might have taken a week off, but we do not. This show, we will be talking about the Bucs coming up short, but hitting that bye week and now coming back refreshed and ready to go as they move into a matchup with the Minnesota Vikings. So joining me, my name is Yurika, and joining me for this week's show is Musaab. My friend here, how did you enjoy your Sunday with no Buccaneers football?
It was an interesting Sunday. It was a quiet Sunday. Still got to see a few games. Nothing really out of the ordinary. Saw some interesting games. I would say that. Also enjoyed my Monday where I saw the Washington football team defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers, making them now defeated. Now they got a loss on their record. So just because I got some family who are from Pittsburgh, that made me a little happy. So they can kind of stop yapping their mouth. But it was a dry week. I still had my Bucs jersey on this Sunday. When I went to Publix and Costco to get my groceries, I was still repping the team. But it was a solid Sunday, and obviously, I had some thoughts about. I wonder what the Bucs are doing right now while all these other teams are playing, and then it makes me think that while the Bucs were on a bye week, there was some interesting games. Obviously, I don't want to go super deep into it, but we had the Chiefs-Broncos game, which was surprisingly close, and then
It was very good, yeah.
Washington and Pittsburgh was also a very interesting game, and then the Giants and Giants and Seahawks.
Yeah, they're on a 5-game win streak right now.
Yeah,
The
so
Giants.
it was and then the Raiders and Jets. Which was a scary, interesting ending. Because I was thinking, oh snap, okay, what Jets got this win in the bag or what? And then Henry Ruggs with the touchdown. So it was, and then also Saints Falcons, 21-16, which was just makes you think, well, if the Falcons are putting up 16 against the Saints. But also this being that the Saints don't have Drew Brees, they got Hill as their quarterback. Right. So a lot of interesting things going on this past week. So at least some things were a little bit entertaining. So at least it was nice. It wasn't a bad week of football as our Bucs weren't playing. But hey, it's week 14 is here, and our Buccaneers will be playing the Vikings this Sunday at 1:00. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and before we get into our kind of analysis of the X's and O's as we move on to Minnesota this week, I do kind of want to take a step to kind of take the 1,000-foot view. Take a step back and look at where we are. This 13 weeks into the NFL season. A lot has happened. There's been some ups. There's been some downs, as I'm sure all the faithful listeners have been listening to us every week, and they've subscribed to the podcast or they're subscribed to our YouTube channel. They know that we definitely have a lot of questions. We have some praise and we have some questions about where the Bucs are. So Musaab, if you humor me here, I did want to go through a few different topics, and I wanted to ask you: do the Bucs have it in the bank, or should they walk the plank? This is it's a little bit of a fun little topic that I want to get into, just to kind of talk about where the Bucs are right now. So the first question I'm going to ask you, here we go. In the bank or walk the plank, the Buccaneers should, or us as Buccaneers fans, we should just get used to the Buccaneers starting slow in these games.
I say walk the plank.
Whoa, walk the plank.
I say walk the plank because as a fan of any team, you don't want to see your team start slow unless it's definitely working out and there's a reason for it. But if you're 7-5 and you're having slow starts, you should definitely be walking the plank. I'll say that. Um, I'm not a fan of it. These slow starts are really getting to us in a lot of these games. I would say Rams, Chiefs from the top of my head. Also, like the Saints game, which it wasn't even a slow start. It just wasn't a start until maybe the last like few minutes in the fourth quarter. So yeah, I want to say walk the plank for that one, just because I don't like it, and I think most Bucs fans or hope the way I see it, I mean all Bucs fans, no one's gonna be a fan of our slow starts, especially just because it's costing us games, and it's getting in. I think it's getting in the players' heads, and I think just because we haven't had a break until now with our bye week. Maybe we really haven't had that much time to really think about it. But with this bye week, like any team, instead of having a week off, now we've had 2 weeks off. So for that reason, I am hoping that Bruce Arians and the rest of the Bucs gang is really thinking about not walking the plank again when it comes to starting slow, because I don't think we can afford it anymore.
Yeah. Now, do you think that is it other teams are game planning really well against us, or is it maybe something the Bucs are doing to are they feeling other teams out? Do you think more so, or because we've seen the Buccaneers in the second half in a lot of these games, it's been we keep saying they flip the switch, right? What do you attribute to the Buccaneers starting slow in a lot of these games?
For some games, I guess I do see what you're trying to say with the kind of get a feel of it, but you know as time goes on, I would say maybe the first few games, you still want to get a feel just because we had no preseason because of this pandemic going on. So obviously you want to get a feel of
Yeah.
how these teams are gonna be, but when it's past week, like I don't know, week 6 to week 14 now. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
should be getting an idea of how these teams are playing. Obviously, with injuries going here, coming in and out for some of these teams, you got to be aware of that. Obviously, there's so much as a fan, or even if you're on the Bucks management team, and you're watching tapes of our opponents. But it's someone's job to really be analyzing how these teams are playing, and
Yeah.
dissecting what they're doing to either win games, or dissecting you know into these teams and what is causing them to lose games, and if they are going to
Mm-hmm.
fix it against our when they play our Buccaneers. So at the end of the day, I think it's, yeah, first few games. I see the Bucks maybe getting a feel of what the teams are like, but I would say after
Yeah.
week 5, week 6, I mean, you should be knowing what these teams are like.
Yeah.
And I'm not really trying to throw the blame on anyone, but it's just, I think my expectation was, you know, I'm not saying, oh my gosh, you should be knowing exactly every single team's weakness and strengths, and oh, there should be no excuse to lose a game. Not like that. Obviously, things are going to change, and they're also, our opponents are aware of who we are, so they might change things up as
Yeah.
well. But um, I just think that we should just maybe try some different things in the beginning, or as soon as
Mm-hmm.
we see a small little issue happen, instead of maybe giving it another chance, immediately picking up on it and making sure it's changed. Especially when our opponents are getting some long drives down the field, or they're getting some opportunities for their running back or tight end to go down the field, for plenty of yards. um, so it's just being able to identify the weaknesses on our defense, or identify the strengths that our opponents are having on the offense. So that's really all I have to say when it comes to the slow starts.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that kind of there's a lot of questions for sure about that might not come out until after the offseason and we start actually getting to maybe touch. And there might be some coaching changes if the worst possible outcome happens about all this stuff. But I think one of the things I want to move into to the next topic is Partly's play calling is a big question mark. And so, Musaab, take it to the bank or walk the plank that the Buccaneers offense should keep passing as much as they have been so far.
I'm gonna say when it comes to that, I think they need to. They're gonna need to walk the plank a little bit on that. I don't know if you can technically walk the plank a little bit, but
Yeah.
you know, I'll be talking about this a little later on as well. But I think, you know, I mean, I think
Okay.
a critical area of focus, you know, for our Buccaneers, especially during this bye week, to think about is we got to be igniting the running game. Bucs offense has been at its best when they've had a running game to help complement the passing games. All right. At times when, you know, our team gets too pass happy, we ignore the running game, which, you know, costs us sometimes. And even though he's not the play caller, I think the Bruce Arians offense tends to get a little fixated on the deep passing plays. I think also sometimes with those slow starts, Tom Brady and the rest of the gang gets a little pressured. Hey, you know, we really got to be making plays happen. So for that reason, I'm going to say again, walk the plank on that. I think they need to be changing things up. Because I also think that, you know, just, you know, passing as much as they have been, especially in certain games, it gives the defense an idea of what, you know, our offensive approach is when it comes to scoring touchdowns. So we got to be able to change it up, and it's just because, you know, we've got different weapons, especially we got some nice weapons, Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones at our running back. And even with the passing, I think it's, you know, they need to kind of really calm down a little bit on those, you know, on those kind of, you know, those long drives and those deep pass plays. I think, you know, I think it's slow and steady. I think we're trying to force too much because, you know, the way I kind of see it now when it comes to these long pass plays is, you know, it's costing us because now our defense is getting a little bit of less rest time. You know, I think that makes a little bit of difference. I think our defense needs to get as much as rest as they can. So, you know, slowly sometimes, you know, obviously if you have the opportunity to, you know, get that deep pass to someone, obviously go for it. But sometimes you really got to grind it out. All right, you know, technically to keep going on and on down the field, you just need about 2.5, 3 yards per down. You know, so if you know, when you think about it like that, you know, it's obviously, you know, you might, you know, the quarterback, you know, might get pressured in the pocket or something, so it doesn't always work out. But when you get those opportunities, I think when it comes to passing plays, you know, what you're asking is, I think the offense should look into doing some more short passes, looking into, dishing some passes to our slot receivers, and also as well igniting the running game.
Yeah, and that I agree with a lot of what you said there. The it goes into my next question, and so this is all related to, of course, but getting that run game going. A big question mark has been with some of the injuries that we've had and some of the shuffling they've had to do. Another question that I had is, Musaab, in the bank or walk the plank, that the offensive line of the Buccaneers can hang with the NFC's best when it comes to the playoffs. When we're talking about, you know, the Saints, who we obviously play twice a year, the Packers, who we did beat, but, you know, playing them again would be a challenge. The Rams, who we've played and lost to, or even a team like Seattle. If we run into any of these teams on our way, of course, to a Super Bowl run, can our offensive line hang with these guys in the playoffs?
I think if everyone stays healthy, I think they can. But as of right now, based on our last few games, we've been walking the plank. You know, so far right now this season, Brady has been hit 44 times while passing this year, which ranks third in the NFL. It just shows you whether, right after he throws it, we're just, I don't know, letting it go or something, or we're just not really giving it enough. And it's also, I'm not really trying to take the credit away from anyone, but the NFC's got some good defensive lines, all right, especially when it comes to going against the NFC's best.
Yeah.
So the NFC's best defensive lines, when they're coming at us, it's kind of hard to contain them. And then that kind of passing too much / going for those deep passes, it's affecting us, because and then when that happens and you're looking for those deep passes, you're spending more time. Offensive line is doing as much as they can to really hang with the defensive line, but sometimes it's not enough, and sometimes it causes for sacks, causes for hits on the quarterback, and I just say that because these hits on the quarterbacks, they're getting some rough hits on Tom Brady, and Brady, he's a tough guy. He's getting a little old, so he's not in the best shape of his life, and it's just if anything is to happen to him, our next guy is Blaine Gabbert, which
Yeah. Oh, you don't feel just as confident about Blaine Gabbert behind center that you do, 20-year veteran, a million rings, Tom Brady?
No, I don't.
You don't think that way about
No, I don't. I don't think you do either, Eureka. No, but
I don't. I do not, sir.
I just think that
I do not, sir.
especially when it comes to going against the NFC's best in the playoffs. I mean, now when it's playoffs times, it's do or die. So everyone's going to be giving it their best. Our offensive line has had some people come in and out with the injuries. The strategy's been a little different and stuff like that. Maybe, and because of that.
Well, and you're relying on a rookie too, in Tristan Wirfs to put in a lot.
Exactly,
of,
yeah. Expecting a rookie
big
also to get some who's getting a lot of playing time to do his job right. So I'm a little 50-50 with the in the bank, walk the plank when it comes to our offensive line. I will say that this upcoming game we got, the only offensive lineman we have right now with the injury report was Donovan Smith, who had limited play. And he's been doing an okay job. But other than that, I mean, our offensive line should be, the rest of the guys should be healthy and stuff against our Vikings. So this game will give us a good idea, especially if Donovan Smith is to play in this game, of what our offensive line is going to be looking. But yeah, I'm just gonna. I'm not gonna keep rambling on and on. Right now, I'm just gonna say 50-50. Walk the plank in the bank with our offensive line. We've had 2 weeks to really think about our strategies, whether it be offensive line, defensive line, secondaries, running game, passing game, etc., etc. So I'm really gonna be dissecting this Vikings Buccaneers game a lot, because I think a bye week should be showing you, playing after a bye week should show you where the team is now. Especially now you got 2 weeks to make sure all your players are as healthy as they can be. So for that reason. I'm just gonna leave it as walk the plank in the bank, 50-50.
All right. Yeah, I won't beat you up about that one. Maybe on another more important topic, I might get you off that fence there. But speaking of moving into that, we've talked about the offensive line and the guy they have to protect, and you have said about getting the hits here, is that with all the offensive weapons, now we know, I think we both agree the defense has a lot less questions. They have some questions, but a lot less questions about how far the Buccaneers can go on that side of the ball. But one big question is, with all the offensive weapons that the Bucs have, in the bank or walk the plank, Tom Brady is the main factor of the Bucs winning or losing the rest of the year.
I am gonna say. I'm gonna say in the bank. With this, especially with this bye week going on, and being Tom Brady, who he is, 20-year veteran, the GOAT. He's got plenty of rings and stuff like that. So, I see him as a main factor for winning, not just on performance, but also on leadership. I think what he brings to the table is not just his skills, but also his knowledge, his wisdom to guide these young guys to making sure they play their best game out there, and also communicating with Arians and Leftwich about how to approach the defensive unit of our opponents. So for that reason, I'm gonna say in the bank because I think a lot of guys also bring a lot of things to the table, but I just see, I'll just say it like this, and excuse me for my little military comparison, Yurika, but I see as this
Yeah,
is I
go
see Tom Brady as the commanding officer. We got some badass soldiers, okay, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to what the major or captain is gonna say and what he's gonna call out, because that's how you're gonna lead a successful military mission. So that's how I look at Tom Brady. He is the commanding officer. He's leading all these troops. We got some great troops, some killer troops who know how to get the job done, but at the end of the day, it's always going to be the commanding officer's call. I think Tom Brady's got the vision that these guys don't have because of his experience. So for that reason, I'm gonna go with in the bank for Tom Brady, main factor for winning.
Yeah, and I agree with you, but maybe for a different reason, is that I think that as we're getting close to the playoffs, when we, as we get into the, what they call nut cutting time, right? It's, I think if there's a play call that comes in, I think that through 3 months of playing now, Brady's done. I think Brady's really good at towing the line of he never really put Belichick under the bus, even though he had disagreements with him. He hasn't put Byron Leftwich, and he hasn't put Bruce Arians under the bus in terms of all the things we're all yelling about, right? We're play calling and throwing deep and what the hell. I think that he's played the good soldier, to go with your analogy. He's been the role model and the ideal guy to get everyone else to kind of buy into what Bruce Arians wants. But now that we're 4 weeks away from the playoffs, if I'm looking for Tom Brady to use that leadership in a way where maybe he checks out of a bad play call, maybe something he hasn't done so far this year. If they're calling something ridiculous and he doesn't see it, if he hasn't been doing this already, I'm looking for him to kind of really take the reins of this offense and say, yeah, your play call is one thing, but what I see and what we're doing and what my guys are telling me is out there, this is what we're really going to do. And normally I would be against that, but when you have, not every team has a Tom Brady. There's maybe only, 3 guys, maybe Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, and I don't really know who else is on that list off the top of my head, but those are guys that at this point in their careers probably know more than even often in terms of being on the field and knowing what they're going to want, what they can do and what they want to do, knowing as much as the offensive coordinator, or knowing more than the offensive coordinator, or at least having to be a good juggler of that player-coach mentality, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I think that Tom Brady, absolutely, it's the reason that the Buccaneers brought him in to help with this offense and these weapons that we have. he is the missing piece that was going to take us from being like okay to playoffs and hopefully better than that. And if Brady, this is a question mark, of course. Maybe Brady's ego has been a little more than his abilities, and hopefully he can check that down into where he's at. Maybe the play calling's been the problem, and maybe Brady can offset some of those things. These are questions that, unless you're in the brain in between the ears of Tom Brady, you won't know. But this is definitely a question mark that Tom Brady, absolutely take it to the bank, is the main factor of at least the offense. And the offense, last time I checked, has to score points to win games. So he is the main factor because if we had a defense that wasn't as good as it is, I think we maybe could make an argument that there are other forces other than Tom Brady that are the marginal difference between winning and losing. But fortunately for us, we have a good to great defense, so that now that marginal difference between a good team that wins 10 games and a great team that hopefully gets rings at the end of the year, it is going to take a Hall of Fame presence back there being
right
the
on.
difference. So that goes into my last question that we'll do for this segment. I got one more question for you. Speaking of that Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, as good as they are, in the bank or walk the plank, that small mistakes are the Achilles heel on defense.
Yes. I think that is. So I'm gonna say that is a in the bank. I'm
taking to the bank.
That is. Yep. I think I find that true. I think that it is costing us a lot. We've had mistakes that have been really costly. From the top of my head, I can immediately think about our game against the Chiefs, where we were trying to do kind of like a little one-on-one against Tyreek Hill, which was absolutely a mess, being that he scored twice, and the second time he did a backflip on us, which was like, oh my God, man, this man thinks we're a joke, huh?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also just more than that. It's not just not just that, but it's also just the penalties, and then also understanding, especially near the end of the games, understanding what the offense of our opponents is gonna do to make sure they stay leading, or to make sure that they can kind of get a last minute touchdown or something like that. And then another example I can think about was, although it was a really wonderful result, the Raiders game, it was a prime example. There was like 2 back-to-back penalties, and then because of that, they had an opportunity. It would have been like they would have just punted the ball. Because of that, they got the first down, and then they gained some yards, and then they gave it to Nelson Aguilar for the touchdown. So it's just these small screw-ups are just, I think, costing us, because then it gives the opponent the opportunity to at least get some at least 3 points, or 7 points from a touchdown. So I say in the bank, I think these small mistakes are the Achilles heel on the defense, especially these small mistakes, the ones that are happening after the first quarter, when you should have an idea of what their offense is going to be doing, or what their offense is like. Obviously, every opponent's offense is always going to intend to change it a little bit to make sure we don't completely get their whole play calls down and stuff like that. But I just think that some of these mistakes have been really costing us. I would say more on the secondary unit than the defensive line, but the defensive line has also had their mistakes as well. So it's I guess not really a point of focus on the blame to anyone. So that's really about it, though. I mean, I'm happy with our players. I just think that the mistakes they make are, some of them are just a little stupid. Some of them are, it's maybe not really sticking with their gut feeling. I just think that maybe they're a little too hard-headed about, okay, well, this is how we're all gonna run it. I think good secondaries know that sometimes, even as soon as the opponent hikes the ball, that things can change, and you gotta have that gut. You gotta have that gut feeling that, hey, maybe I'm supposed to do this, but I think it's best for me to approach it another way. I don't think we're doing it that much, and that's what's costing us. Because I think good defensive backs, cornerback, safeties, they know when they need to change things up, like within a second. They can read that defense. So for that reason, I'm going in the bank. Small mistakes are the Achilles heel on our defense. When it comes to these upcoming 4 games, I'm not too worried. But when it comes to, well, actually, I take that back. When it comes to this game, I am worried a little bit, just because it's basically battle for the playoffs, going against the Vikings, who are 6-6 and we're 7-5. So. After this game, I'm not that worried, but I am worried about this game. And I'll try not to repeat it too much. But then again, we've had 2 weeks, with our bye week. So hopefully, I'm praying that we are identifying these things. Obviously, I'm not expecting our defense to have a perfect game and to have no mistakes at all. But hopefully, a lot of those small mistakes or silly mistakes should definitely not be happening against the Vikings this Sunday.
Yeah, no. Quick question, and we'll just get a quick response, and we'll go to break here. At the beginning of the year, if I would have told you that they would be 7-5 going into the bye week, would you think that was successful or not successful?
I would not say successful. Seeing the teams we've played, I don't think it's successful, because I don't think we've had our expected performances from some games compared to others. Would I expect them to be undefeated? No, but I just know that even the losses we've had, especially like the one we had against the Saints the second time, that should have not happened at all. If it was if it was a close game, like if it was a Rams game, with a 27-24 loss, I would still be sad, but I wouldn't be disappointed, just because it is the Saints and they are a good team, But I don't think it's. I'm not happy with us being 7-5 by the before the bye week started. Ideally, I had them 9-3. Just because, first of all, that Rams loss I don't think really should have happened, and then that Bears loss definitely should have not happened. And then the other ones, it would have been nice to win, but I understand if we did lose because it was against good teams. And then with the Chiefs game, I was expecting maybe a different outcome win for the Chiefs. To be honest, I wasn't expecting us to catch up and then kind of, mess up in the end, just giving Patty Mahomes all that time to run the ball and waste time. The expectations were not there. That's all I really have to say. Then again, it is the first year that, Brady's on a different team and we got some new weapons. So, we're still adjusting, although I was hoping by week 6, week 7, things should have kind of been a little more solid. But it is what it is. Maybe there's some kind of internal issues that, us fans don't maybe know about, or maybe 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 we are working on these things, but it's still not working out for us. I don't know too much, but I will. That is another thing I will be keeping my eye out on this Sunday. I'm gonna be really looking just at everything this Sunday. I already cleared my schedule this Sunday because I'm gonna make sure I watch every single second of this game because it's our bye week. It's our post bye week game. It's an important game.
Yeah.
Especially because I really think we definitely need to win this game. I'm not worried about the other 3 games afterwards. Obviously, we need to win those as well, but I think we will no matter what. Hopefully, if all goes well, we don't choke or something. But this game was Bucs got to be totally ready. No screw ups. So that's I hope I answered your question.
No, I'm with you because my answer, I guess, to that is that as much 7-5, it definitely just in and of itself. If you would have told me, oh, Tom Brady, when we signed Tom Brady, oh yeah, we signed Tom Brady, but we're going to go 7-5. I at first I would be like, yeah, that's really disappointing, and of course, living through it has been disappointing, but they have had the toughest schedule, or at least one of the toughest schedules in the NFL. Where now all of those excuses, I guess, if you're looking at it from a pessimistic view, all those excuses are out of the door, or out of the window for the rest of the year. Like the Bucs are expected, and we'll get into this after the break. I think the Bucs are expected to run the table for the rest of the regular season, which would be 11-5, right? Would be the final if they did that. And if the Bucs are able to go 11-5, I think that we're like, wow, yeah, of course, that's every team would love to go 11-5, regardless of who you won or who you lost against. But at this junction, as many ups and downs and questions as we have, I agree with you completely that this game that we have against the Vikings, and one that we're going to get into, is very important because the Vikings are only one spot lower than the Buccaneers in the playoff hunt. So this is another one in 3 weeks or 4 weeks 3 out of 4 weeks, right? We've played the Rams, they're a playoff team. We've played the Chiefs, they're the defending Super Bowl champions. And now we've had a little bit of time to game plan against the Vikings, who are a playoff contender. I agree with you completely. So let's do this. We're going to take a break, and when we get back, Musaab, I'm going to run through the numbers a little bit, and then we're going to get all of your insight and analysis on how you think our Tampa Bay Buccaneers can start the end of the regular season and our push towards the playoffs. All that after the break. Welcome back into RBLR Sports. Musaab, I want to get your take on now that we've kind of talked about where the Bucs have been so far. 13 weeks into this NFL season. Let's come from the 1,000-foot view back down to the gridiron view as our Tampa Bay Buccaneers go against the Minnesota Vikings, who are 6-6. They are rebounding off of a 1-5 start, so I kind of want to go into the numbers here. So I'm gonna kind of spit out a bunch of stats here, but just to kind of frame where the Vikings are and the Bucs in relation to this matchup. So the Buccaneers are favored in this game by 6.5 points as the home team. Minnesota, though, coming off that 1-5 start, they have now got back to 500, and part of that is because they have won 4 of the last 5 games. Recently, they beat Jacksonville by a field goal in overtime. The week before that, they beat Carolina by 1 point. They lost to the kind of abysmal Dallas Cowboys. But they did beat Chicago, where we did not beat Chicago, but they beat them by 6 points. And about a month ago, they beat Detroit, but of course that was before they had fired Matt Patricia. But they did beat Detroit 34-20. Coming into this matchup, though, this is the first road game that they've had in a month. Their past games have all been at home, and now they're starting. I think they've one more home game before the end of the year. So this is the start of a kind of a road trip for the Vikings. Overall, though, they have the number 4 offense in the NFL, powered by their running game, which of course is headed by the great Dalvin Cook. He is already over 1,000 yards this year, and that offense pretty good, man. They 75% of the time the Vikings score in the red zone. They are third in the NFL in red zone touchdowns, and even Kirk Cousins has in the past 3 games he has had 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in 3 straight games. So with all that said, that's kind of the good of what the Vikings are coming in. They're not a joke, okay? They are only one step below the Bucs in terms of the playoff race. But the way going into these numbers here, now some of the numbers that might be more favorable to the Buccaneers, their rushing attack is their main, in my opinion, is their main source of offense. But our Buccaneers do have the number 1 rush defense in the NFL. And on the flip side, I have to say that the Vikings have one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and because of that, their pass defense is their Achilles heel. Their pass defense is what really is the albatross. Their run defense is admirable. It's all right, but their pass defense is very, very bad. And going up against our Tampa Bay offense, I guess with all that said, I think I'm going to frame this in the form of a question here. Shout out to Alec Trebek here. Is Musaab, how do you think the Buccaneers are going to stack up this week against the Minnesota Vikings?
Well, as you said yourself, this is going to be an interesting game, just because, I mean, both of these teams are now legitimate postseason contenders. Vikings have got 5 wins in the last 6 weeks, including, last Sunday's overtime thriller against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then, the Bucs have had a nice streak, although, we've lost to the contending Rams and Chiefs. That didn't go in our favor, obviously, which made us 7-5. We still have our kind of, our postseason contender little badge. And, when you put them two together, head to head, as they are going to be this Sunday, I'm looking at, and the way most people are, is, we're looking at the 6th and 7th seeds in the NFC playoff hunt, meeting to decide who will be in that 6th spot after this weekend. All right, so Tampa Bay will finish his regular season and chase his playoff spot in 13 years against 4 teams that are all, 0.500 or worse. But obviously that run starts with what is clearly a challenging opponent in the Vikings, especially in Dalvin Cook, who's been an absolute beast. And then, kind of looking more into it, I also wanted to say that, having lost 2 straight games, both within 3 points, I think the Buccaneers could use a win to secure their position and make it in the playoffs, as they are, second in the wild card seed in the playoffs in the moment. But the Minnesota Vikings are right behind them and only 1 win back on them. So, Tom Brady, he's had a heck of a game on the stat sheet, 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs, but his 2 interceptions late in the game kind of kept the Bucs from starting, an earlier comeback. But it is impressive, however, that, the Buccaneers have come back after having been down by 13 points going into halftime. backfield of Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette has been versatile since their beginning, and they've opened up many opportunities for their offense. In the past 2 weeks, they've combined for just 117 yards between the two of them, and they've struggled against tough rushing defenses. However, last week, Ronald Jones, or well, I would say not 2 weeks ago now, Ronald Jones scored in the passing game, and 2 weeks ago, Fournette put up a big rushing touchdown against the Rams. However, again, next week, this week, Minnesota does well at defending the run. I don't say they're definitely up there. They're definitely the top defenses, but they do allow one of the least amount of rushing touchdowns, in the league. But then also looking, I will talk about a little bit later, but looking at Eric Kendricks, if Eric Kendricks is out, they will have an opportunity to capitalize on the run game. So it's really interesting to see. We've talked about this a little bit before, Eureka, but kind of just giving like a little overview, just a basic overview. I see this as a Buccaneers who they've had some things they need to tweak. Being the slow start and being a little small defensive mistakes, and then maybe kind of getting that chemistry together. But they've also had a 2-week break, so hopefully they're going to be able to adjust on all those things that they've kind of been a little poor on, or that they've been needing to work on. And now they're going against the Vikings, who have had an interesting season so far. Their wins and their losses have been really interesting. And to be honest, I don't see a threat in them as I do with the past teams we've played. The only really big threat, and I think everyone knows this, is Mr. Dalvin Cook, who has been an absolute beast. But then again, on one side, I'm thinking, no matter what team you're on, there's always going to be at least one or two players who are going to step up to the plate and make something happen. Obviously, you can't get pummeled by every single team in the league, otherwise your whole franchise might just shut down or something. So, just that being said, we're going to be needing to make adjustments, though, especially for the receivers. Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, they've had their good games this season so far, so we got to keep an eye out on that. But my big worry, and I think I'm assuming the Bucs' big worry, the defensive line's big worry is, we got to make sure we stop Dalvin Cook, because I feel like once he starts to get on fire, it's going to affect us mentally. To be honest, Eureka, I just think that these slow starts and these small issues that we have, or small mistakes that we make, I think they affect us, our team mentally. I don't think our team really has it in them sometimes, or at times mentally, when we're already down, or when we're screwing up. So for that reason, I think that a strong start is needed, and we really need to just keep an eye. Obviously, you always got to keep an eye out on the quarterback, but there's pressure of Cousins. I don't see him doing anything super special against us. I really don't. I think he'll, if needed be, he will just do what he needs to do. But that is if he sees his two best receivers out there, Jefferson and Thielen, out there, open, and then also giving the ball to Dalvin Cook himself. So, I want to know what you think as well. Maybe just a little overview of, more on, I guess, I don't have too much to say, about the defensive weapons, or maybe, the defensive unit of the Vikings. I to be honest, I don't know too much about them, and to be honest, I haven't heard much about them looking into this game, and even in the past. I don't think they're anything special, to be honest. So I'm more interested, though, Eureka, is in what do you think, for our defense, though, looking at, some of the key players on the Vikings offensive unit. What should we do, or what is expected that we do?
Yeah, the main thing that I saw looking back over the last couple games is that Kirk Cousins is not afraid to throw into coverage. Now, there was one play I guess there were many plays where it was one-on-one matchups between the Jacksonville Jaguars defensive backs and guys like, when you've got Adam Thielen, you trust him, and definitely Kirk Cousins is not afraid to throw into these these minuscule windows. So this is going to be a huge matchup. I don't know exactly who you're going to put on to Thielen, or if you're going to kind of rotate a few guys, but that's definitely going to be a matchup that I'm looking at, because of course the Bucs have to stuff the run, but so far they have done that this year. They're averaging less than 100 yards given up a game in the rushing, but they do give up over 270 yards per game in passing, and part of that's just indicative of the way the NFL is today. But you have a team that they average 270 yards passing in this game, so I think that in the scheme of it, maybe the strength of our rush defense kind of hopefully negates the rushing attack of Dalvin Cook. Okay, so if we just give the benefit of the doubt to their running game and say if that negates itself, now the big matchup is Kirk Cousins versus these defensive backs of the Buccaneers. So it's that has been give and take this year. To be honest with you, all in all, it hasn't been 100% like a lockdown corner play from this team. So I'm hoping that Jamel Dean was on the injury list earlier this week, but if you're looking at guys like Carlton Davis, and even in the safeties in the backfield like Winfield Jr., Jordan Whitehead, right? Like, can these guys who are all young, but they've been in the league for a couple years. Pretty much all these guys have been in the league for 2 or more years. Are they going to be able to match up with Kirk Cousins, who I think he's an average quarterback, and I mean that in a positive way. I'm not trying to diss Cousins here. It's just that everything about the Vikings is other than Dalvin Cook. Everything on their offense is pretty average. Like just, I don't mean like they're better than most, but not as good as the best. I think is the nicest way to put it. And so we're looking at who they've played this year. I don't really think they've played that many top level talent. They did beat the Packers, which we beat the Packers, but other than that, they lost to the Colts, which is a playoff team in the AFC, but I don't think anyone's thinking they're going to contend really for the Super Bowl. But looking at their whole body of work and seeing what they've done, to be honest with you, they've given up more points on defense than they've scored on offense. And if you look at it totally, they have a subpar defense and a average offense. So in terms of our matchups, that's what I'm really looking for, is if Kirk Cousins comes out firing right off the bat, and our defensive backs just are caught off guard, like Murphy Bunting has been a couple times this year. If we get Carlton Davis getting abused by Thielen, in the same way that Tyreek Hill did a couple weeks ago, or a week ago, or a couple weeks ago, if all those bad things happen, then we have cause to panic and worry. But if the run, if hopefully that running attack is negated by our rush defense and our good linebackers, our good front seven, it really comes down to that the corners and the safeties doing their job in man coverage, and hopefully we're not kind of getting overzealous and we're not taking care of their main weapons. You have to double team, maybe not double team, but you maybe have to have help against Thielen, and you maybe have to look out for these kind of short to intermediate routes. They try to throw a little bit out of the backfield to Dalvin Cook, but really that's all predicated on them establishing that run early in the game. They start slow. As much as we talk about the Buccaneers starting slow, I think the Vikings start pretty slow as well because they have to establish that running game. If the Bucs defense can really take care of that off the bat, Minnesota's in trouble because, being honest with you, I think that if Tampa is firing at full capacity, the way they were at the second half against the Chiefs, if they come out and they're that team, then the Vikings do not have much of a shot. If the Buccaneers come out slow and sloppy, like you were saying, if they come out slow, then and Minnesota's hanging around towards halftime, now it is kind of these little ifs and maybes and things like that could happen that turn the tide for the Vikings in their favor. So I think that this is important just because this is really the last good team that the Buccaneers are going to play before the playoffs. So like you said, coming off of a bye and having all this extra time to prepare for one opponent, I'm fully expecting that they're going to come out and if they do their best, then they will have no problem taking care of Minnesota. Those are kind of my overall thoughts.
No.
Was there anything I didn't cover? I'm sorry.
No need to be sorry, first of all, Yurika. And I always love your insight. No, I don't think you really missed out on anything. I guess maybe just what you were talking about. I guess with Kirk Cousins, is I think he had a good performance against the Jaguars, but it is the Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean, no, like I said, he's had 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Okay, but that's against the 1-10 or whatever Jacksonville Jaguars. The Panthers, who we've beat twice, they beat them by 1 point, and they lost to the Cowboys. So even if he had 3 touchdowns, they still lost to the Cowboys, who have won 3 games this whole year. So as much as the stats might look good, this is the first really good team that the Vikings have played in a long time, in over a month.
Yeah. Oh, no, most definitely. I agree with you on that. I mean, they, they've been okay. I just think that you've told me before about this as well. Looking, when we talked about this before this podcast,
Yeah.
Is that the Vikings are basically kind of just like the definition of an okay team.
Yeah, they're okay. They're okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
So, just for that reason, I just think that they don't have what they need to beat us unless we really screw up or something.
Yeah.
In the 2 games I've seen by the Vikings, and not the whole games, but I think they need to be worried about their pass rush. They've been producing a lot of sacks. Cousins has been sacked, a lot this season so far.
Yeah.
So the Vikings, their offensive line is something they need to worry themselves about. And then even with the defense, it's been pretty unreliable this season. Their defense is going to need to make adjustments, against a extremely productive offense. I think, honestly, I just think is this, when we get those opportunities, Yurika to go for those long passes and deep passes, I say go for them. Otherwise, I say we just keep grinding it out.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this defense is really going to be a threat if we keep changing things up, especially the fact that we have different kinds of weapons.
I agree. I think
we got someone like Tom Brady who has the vision. All right, and so for that reason, I think, the defense, they're below average on both ends of the ball against the defense is below average. Offense is, I don't see anything really special with them other than Cook, and that's just when he gets hot.
Thielen's good. Thielen's good. But Kirk Cousins is the guy throwing the ball to him.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what drags him down.
Yep. On both ends of the ball, again, I see him as okay. They've allowed a lot of points to teams like the Cowboys, Panthers, Jaguars.
Yep.
So they're going to need to step up their game to get by the Tampa Bay Bucs this week. Who averaged the 6th most points per game in the NFL.
Exactly.
They're averaging about 28, 29 points per game. So our Bucs are going to be coming in hot. Second of all, we got a nice long break. I'm thinking we've made some changes. I'm sure. Then again, I'm sure the Vikings are aware of that as well. But when it comes to the defense, I was reading a little about it. Just as on their defense, the only two big people I would probably say is, I would say first big person is Eric Kendricks, who is their all-pro linebacker, who has been leading, the Vikings in tackles, for 5 consecutive seasons. He was also added to the injury report with the calf injury. But he tried to play on Sunday, but he wasn't able to. And then also Jeff Gladney, their rookie corner, who played 95% or more of Minnesota's defensive snaps from week 3 to week 12. Then again, left last week's game with a calf injury. And I just say this because those players are important, especially when it comes to those opportunities that the Bucs have on third downs, when they're going against Brady. But I just, to really summarize what I really have to say, the offense, you and I already know, and I'm sure, our fans know, is, they're average. Thielen's good, but it depends on Cousins. Cook, he's good, but I don't think he's that kind of player who can put the whole team on his back, being that he's going against the Buccaneers. It's maybe one thing if you're going against the Jets or something. All right, sure. But, our 21 season vet, Tom Brady, has opportunities to spread the ball around with 8 different Buccaneers who are recording 20 more catches so far this season. So, to me, what it really all comes down to is making sure we use the right weapons at the right time. And, I think we just need to stick to the fundamentals in the beginning. I don't think we need to do anything ballsy or anything super bold. But we need to be coming full throttle, whether we start the game with the ball or they do. We need to be coming at them the whole time. We need to be coming with the intention. We don't need to be looking at who's playing. Whether Kendricks or Gladney's playing, or whether Dalvin Cook is playing, or they got their second string running back starting the game. It doesn't matter. Our Bucs shouldn't care who's on the other side. The only priority is just to make sure we stop them, and hopefully, looking a little more at that kind of little defensive report, is injuries wise, Levante David, he was fully practicing today. As of today at 2 p.m. when I kind of checked out a little report, he was practicing. Jamel Dean got a little groin injury. as of today, he did not practice. And then Steve McClendon, he had limited practice. Peter Paul, limited practice, but he's been still kind of putting in reps. So I mean, yeah, I just wanted to give a little heads up to our audience about what's going on with that.
Yeah.
But I guess overall, I think it should be fine, and I think maybe this leads me to my three predictions.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
What's your you always give us bold predictions and a final score.
Yeah.
So,
There's no podcast. There's no RBLR podcast without Musaab's bold predictions and score.
I mean,
prediction.
I sent you that crystal. I sent you that crystal ball that I bought off eBay. So I want to know what you're seeing in it, brother.
All right. Well, here's what I'm seeing in that crystal ball, Yurika.
All right. Yes, sir.
The first thing I'm seeing is the Bucs they're definitely gonna get one interception, maybe two, if we really are pressuring Cousins. But I'm gonna stick with one right now. The Bucs defense has been lit up in their last 3 home games against Saints, Rams, and Chiefs. This week is gonna be different against Kirk Cousins and the Vikings in town. Although Cousins has been playing very well lately, the Buccaneers are getting the road version of Kirk Cousins and not the dome version. Okay, and second of all, we also got we got fans in our stadium as well. And then in regards to the interception stuff, I mean, Cousins has thrown 5 of his 12 interceptions this season in his 5 road games. Okay, he's been a much better quarterback when playing at home in the dome, and this week will be no different. And then, with this whole pandemic and all that going on, I don't think this is a huge deal. I don't think so, but it's just something to just, consider. Cousins also been a much different quarterback on the road against a quality defense. My buddy was telling me, he was saying, and I agree with him as well, he was saying, unless the Buccaneers shoot themselves in the foot on Sunday, they should be able to neutralize Cousins. They are already strong against the run, which will give Minnesota nothing offensively, hopefully. And Tampa Bay defense, they've been getting good at getting pressure on quarterbacks. We got 34 sacks this season. So we should be able to take advantage of a less than stellar offensive line for a few more sacks on Sunday. This will force Cousins, in my opinion, into bad throws and poor decisions. And then my next hot take or bold prediction is, he got a 2-week break just like the rest of his teammates. Tom Brady's going to rebound with over 300 yards, and I think he's going to have multiple touchdowns. Minnesota defense is not looking very good against Tom Brady, and he's going to be able to take advantage of that on Sunday. The Vikings rank actually in the bottom half of the NFL's most, giving most categories when it comes to defense, giving up an average of 27 points per game. And even though Minnesota has not been great at stopping opponents from getting into the red zone, they have been opportunistic with 17 takeaways. That includes 11 interceptions. But, the bye week most likely did not cure all of, the Bucs' woes and maybe specifically Brady's woes. Seeing how it has been so far, I wouldn't be surprised if he threw an interception, but with this 2-week break, I think he's going to be really considering it, his making smart passes. And also the Vikings have not been really good at creating sacks on quarterbacks this season so far, so this is going to help Brady in his bounce-back game. He's not going to feel as rushed as he has in the previous 2 weeks. I think that's going to be a big thing when it comes to this good performance with over 300 yards and multiple touchdowns. I just really think that this is just like I see this game as kind of like a Panthers game. I really do. Obviously, not a huge, blowout loss like we had against the Saints. But, hey, we had some 2 tough losses, especially just of how we've been playing. They've been both close games. So it still kind of hurts. And I think this game is going to be that little confidence booster. Not that we really need it against going against our future opponents, but I think it's going to be that little, hey, okay, stuff happens. It is what it is. We had a nice bye week. hopefully we identified our mistakes and we know what we need to do now. So for that reason, we're gonna be dominating on the offense. And speaking of dominating, my last bold prediction is Tampa Bay's defense will completely dominate. They're gonna have that. They're gonna have that little mojo magic going on. Buck defense has looked like anything but the dominant unit we saw during the first half of the season. We have been blowing assignments and kind of picked on in the passing game, but I think the Vikings provide a good cure for some of those issues. That Vikings run first offense, which is perfect for the Tampa Bay defense. Bucs are leading right now NFL in the rush defense, and still are only giving up about 70 yards a game. So some successes in the running game can be attributed to how poorly the team has been against the pass lately, but they're still giving up like three yards per carry for the season. So hopefully I'm going to be looking for this success to continue this Sunday. And although Dalvin Cook has been one of the best running backs in the league so far, I think the Vikings offense is too predictable, especially for opponents that can match their physicality in the run game. The matchup is perfect for the Buccaneers, and the Vikings are just going to take too long to adjust to it. I saw, and I say this because the first time we played the Panthers, Panthers had McCaffrey and we were able to contain him. He still had a good game, but we were still able to contain him, not letting him just completely run over us. In regards to this bold prediction, my bold prediction when it comes to the dominant defense is I'm expecting at least one interception. And I'm talking like an easy interception. I just think that this pass rush defense is really going to be really getting into Cousins' head. They're going to be pressuring him, especially once he realizes, hey, we can't just keep giving the ball to Dalvin Cook. And even when they do give it to Dalvin Cook, we got some big tough guys. I'm looking ideally, and my bold prediction is I think we're gonna force a turnover from Dalvin Cook himself. He's had 4 fumbles. He's had 4 fumbles on the season.
Okay.
He's lost 3 of them. 3 of his fumbles have been in the last 4 games. So I don't. To be honest, I don't know. It shouldn't be a shock if he coughs up the ball again. So
he almost fumbled. He fumbled in the red zone last week against the Jaguars. I don't think they lost the ball, but he did fumble it.
Right on.
I could be wrong about that, but he did fumble it.
True that, yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised. And once that Bucs D gets high, you can't stop them. You really can't. And now that I'm done with my bold predictions, this leads to my final score prediction.
Yes, the main event. The main event, baby.
Roll, please.
Yeah.
All right. My final score prediction is 31-17 Buccaneers win.
Wow,
and I say this because the Vikings are still right in the thick of things in the NFC wildcard race, but a win over the Bucs would be huge, but I don't think I just if I was a Minnesota fan, I couldn't trust that team going against the Bucs right now, especially with this 2-week break and especially knowing what weapons they have. So because of that, the Vikings have been barely beating not good teams. So exactly.
Wow. Yeah.
So
that's what it is.
So for that reason, I'm gonna say 31-17. And I'm just gonna lock that in. I'm gonna stick with that. But I will say, because the Vikings have been barely beating these not so good teams, this could get real ugly for them. This could get real ugly for them if the Bucs are really in that zone and they really took advantage of this 2-week break. This could get really ugly for the Vikings and really nice for us. But a realistic prediction of mine is the 31-17. What do you think, Yurika?
I'm along the same lines as you. Looking at their offense is pretty, even with Dalvin Cook being really, really good. I mean, really, really good, and having Thielen there. their offense has been pretty much exactly average versus what you would expect versus the teams that they've played so far. However, the Bucs offense has been way better than average, and their defense is absolutely better than average. Meanwhile, the Minnesota defense has been worse than average. So taking that all into consideration, what does that really mean? I'm with you. I think that the Bucs are 6.5 point favorites for a reason. Vegas sees kind of what I'm seeing. I think that the Bucs are going to end up winning somewhere like it's kind of weird to say 32 points, but I'm with you, kind of that 31-32 point range. If I had to put a number, I'm going to say the Bucs are going to win 32-24, but and that sounds pretty close. Okay, 24 points sounds like a lot. The way that I actually see this game going is the Bucs are going to get ahead really early. I think that by the third quarter, the Bucs have scored the majority of their points, and from that point on, maybe they're taking their foot off the gas, and that's where Minnesota scores their points. But still, that's an 8-point victory, which in the NFL is pretty big. I see that maybe I'm being hesitant because I do want to say something like 32-10 or 32-13 or something like that. But I think that the Vikings are going to score, but I think some of those points are going to come in garbage time when it isn't even a game anymore. But really the story of this game, I think, at 32-24 is that the Buccaneers always had control. They always were in the lead. They dominated both sides of the ball, and it was never really as close as the final score was. That's what I expect. I do see that there are some big question marks that if we're coming around, if we start talking ourselves next week about how we lost to the Vikings and what does that mean, I think that it does come down to, did Cousins overpower the young defensive backs that we have? Did Dalvin Cook rush for 300 yards against the Buccaneers defense? Those things are unlikely, but they are possible. But that's how I see it. I see 32-24 victory. Buccaneers win. They cover the spread, and they win by one possession or more. So that's just how I see it.
Right on. I like that. I think, your prediction is also really good. Wouldn't be surprised if it goes that way as well. I mean, it's pretty close to mine, so that's I like your vision. And I think, it should go well. Really, to be honest, I really don't see us losing. I'll be real happy if it goes, the way we said it does, or even, with a higher score by the Bucs. I'll still be happy if we win, but if it gets a little close, I'll be like, all right, well, we barely scraped this one out. It's just gonna make me think a little more about if we do make the playoffs, how are we gonna make sure we don't let these silly mistakes happen again?
Agreed. And, what if it's another 20-19 loss like the Bears game?
That's what I'm thinking. Or
that's the worst possible outcome.
Or even if it's a 20-19 win, I'm gonna be thinking, okay, we won, but
sure.
That should have not happened. And if we lose, oh man, it's. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that.
I mean, it is possible. It is unlikely, but it is possible. And I think that it would just, if we come back here next week and we're just like, look, man, we still have these big ass questions, that we are, sorry, but we have these big questions that we have to get answered that I don't know, even if we blow out Atlanta twice and we blow out Detroit, it's like, okay, but when you play the Rams, when you play the Packers, when you play the Saints, when you play the Seattle Seahawks or the Rams or when you play any of these NFC playoff teams that are better than the Vikings, that are better than the Bears, that are better than the Broncos, even that gave us a problem. Like it's teams like that where it's like, well, wait, what is your identity? Where are you going? And why is there not a cohesive identity? But that's the worst part of the spectrum. The good part of the spectrum is I see this kind of more along the lines of the Packers game, where it's like our defense is great, our offense is better than their defense, and as long as we don't screw up anything in special teams, we're just going to put 30-plus points on the board, and there's no way they can match us, and we're just going to pretty much play with them, and there you go. We're going to win the game. That's what I'm expecting and what I'm hoping. But I don't want to come out of this with a win is a win mentality, right? I want this to be a definitive victory. I want this to be the last, decent team that we play before the playoffs, that we not only won, but we decisively had a victory, and we put them away, and now we're just kind of staying healthy, fine-tuning some things in the offense, and getting ready for that playoff run. But that's just my opinion, though.
No, I'm with you on that. I mean, at the end of the day, the way I kind of see it is just, the Bucs do match up with them quite well. The Vikings are averaging like 145 yards on the ground each game, but Tampa, with its top-ranked rushing defense, are only allowing 74 yards. And then on the other side of the ball, the Bucs rank 6th in offensive points scored this season, while Minnesota ranks like 26th in points allowed, letting up about 27, 28 points per game. So for that reason, I mean, it's really expected, even by experts and by everyone, that the Bucs win. I think the different opponents that the Vikings and Bucs have had, it's going to show. It's going to show this Sunday, because Vikings have not played the teams we have, and we haven't played the teams that the Vikings have. But it's basically it's going to come down to all right, fine. If both of us are kind of having similar records, someone's gonna have to win. But to be honest, I don't see Vikings having a chance unless we really make some silly mistakes and we really screw up.
Yeah, and with that, I think that's I couldn't have said it better. Let's say another silly mistake that you could make as a listener is not following us on all forms of social media. Do not be the Minnesota Vikings of social media. Be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Follow us. We are on Instagram. We are on Twitter. We are on, you name it, we're on Facebook. We got all that stuff. We have a YouTube channel where I'm even doing silly things like opening sports cards. I found a Randy Arozarena rookie card in the Topps 2020 update. So I am like on the moon. I am ecstatic. This is awesome. If you also want to get involved, leave us a voicemail. We are at 813-778-5280. Leave us a voicemail under a minute, and we always take your questions into consideration on what we format the show around. So please leave your voicemail. Let your voice be heard at 813-778-5280. And remember, like and subscribe to us wherever platform you're hearing us on right now, whether that's Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. It definitely helps us out. If you're on Spotify, if you're on Stitcher, if you're on Google Podcasts, subscribe to this channel. It helps us out immensely. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, hit that bell, get the notifications. We update with the podcast every week. We update with extra content like the sports card breaks. It's cool little stuff to hopefully get you through your week. I know that I have a blast doing with this. I have a blast hanging out with my buddy Musaab. And we definitely thank you for listening and taking your time out of your day, whether it's your lunch break or your commute. or whatever to listen to what we're saying about your favorite sports teams. Before we get out of here, Musaab, anything for us before we get out of here, buddy?
Well, to all of our listeners, we appreciate you, and we hope that you appreciate us. But
sure.
Yurika, it's always a pleasure as well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, do listen to us and check out all of our all our other media platforms, and just want to say a happy Hanukkah to those who are celebrating.
Yes, sir.
To our audience who is celebrating.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Regardless of how this pandemic is and how it's affecting us, we RBLR Sports wish you all a safe and happy holiday season, and we hope that you can find some happiness.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much. For Musaab and myself, we thank you, and we will see you next week, hopefully after a Tampa Bay Buccaneers victory. Let's go. Fire
Yes,
the
sir.
cannons. Get hype. Let's go. We took a week off. Now we're ready. Get your favorite drink. Strap in. We're not on prime time. We're in the afternoon. We're ready to go. We're gonna win because we're not on Monday Night Football again. But here we go. From all of us,
No,
here
we're not walking the
Sports, thank you
plank.
very much.
We're not walking the plank.
We're taking it to the bank. We're not walking
We're going to the bank this weekend.
All right. For my brother Musaab and myself, thank you so much. We will see you guys next week.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.